Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome to Eyes to See Decodes. Today we're going to be looking at the topic of schism. And we're going to be breaking this down using Gematria, the Strong's Concordance, and some biblical understandings. So let's take a look. Today my methods of decoding are going to be primarily the Chaldean Gematria cipher, as well as the English ordinal ciphers, both forward and reverse. And I'm going to also be using the Strong's Bible Concordance, as well as some artwork from the Royal Society of Chemistry. And as you can see here, that the Chaldean Gematria cipher pairs numbers to letters based on the sound of the letters, just like the musical scale of the notes, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, which are 8. There's 8 numbers paired up with the letters and they're grouped up by sound. This is the oldest known numerology cipher that we have, and it pairs very well with the periodic table of elements, as well as the English ordinal cipher that pairs very well with the Strong's Concordance. So just as an example, how these two ciphers pair off each other, you can see here that the word Jesus Christ summed to 151 in the English ordinal cipher, and in Chaldean, the same words, Jesus Christ, summed to 36. So we generally get a higher score using the English than we do the Chaldean. But as you can see here, that 151 is the 36th prime number. So there's a match here between these two numbers in the words Jesus Christ. You can see how they pair very well with one another. So today's topics, we're going to be looking at Carlo Vigano and the Vatican Schism. We're going to be looking at the Acts of Peter, as well as we're going to be breaking down and looking at a music video from a rock band called Tool, and they have a song called Schism, and the video is very telling. It's very cryptic, and we're going to be looking at it and breaking it down. So let's take a look. So we're going to break down the word schism here, and this is the definition of schism. It's defined as a separation or division into factions, a formal breach of union within a religious body, especially a Christian church, the offense of attempting to produce such a breach. So we see here that schism gives us a sum total of 71 in English. 71 matches the element lutetium on the periodic table of elements, and I've decoded this in previous decodes, but the element lutetium is tied to Lucifer. It has the two letters Lu to represent the acronym for the element itself, and it also has the atomic weight of 174, and the numbers 741, we know through the work of Manly P. Hall that the number 741 and its anagrams are tied to the number, or represent the number of Lucifer. So looking at the artwork, we see the upside down rainbow, also a boat on water or waves or clouds over a sea of red, which could be interpreted as blood, the downward pointing arrow, and the fleur-de-lis banner, which represents the Trinity or the Columbus family from my research. So the word schism sums to 71, matching I am born upside down in the Chaldean cipher, and the number 174 that's paired with the 71 is tied to Mother of Jesus, the Bishop of Rome, who we'll see in our decode in a minute, the crime of a schism, which is what this whole Vatican story is about, human husbandry, written hue for the color code, because we are light beings. We have a chakra system, the 7 lights, pendulum of time, and you'll see the pendulum of time come up in our tool breakdown. So let's take a look at this article here from the Washington Post, and this article says it's from July 5th, which is the 7th month, the 5th day, or 7-5. It can be written as 7-5. It says the Vatican excommunicates Archbishop Vigano for refusing to recognize Pope Francis. In a rare trial, the Vatican acted against Carlo Maria Vigano, a former ambassador to the United States and one of Pope Francis's most vociferous internal critics. So we know the Vatican is a snake. Here is Audience Hall. Anyone can go look at this themselves. This image was taken from Google Earth. You can see the Audience hall here has the shape of a snake head, and this is inside audience hall, where the two windows opposing each other here are the two windows you can see on the inside, and this is the stage where the Vatican or the Pope will give his sermons. And this to me looks like a giant snake head. And we see here in English, Mr. Vigano here, you'll see in the article, calls the Pope Francis a servant of Satan, and that sums to 175 in English, matching Pope Francis in reverse at 175. And this date of July 5th, when we measure from the Pope's birthday, which we know as December 17th, 1936, so from December 17th, the anniversary of his birthday, to July 5th, the date of this article and the day that they excommunicated Mr. Vigano, we see that that is precisely 201 days. And this number 201 is a very well known number for being tied to the Vatican and the Pope. And we know that the Pope himself, Pope Francis, the first Jesuit Pope, decided to live in Suite 201 within the Domus Sanctae Martha. And you'll see here that the Jesuit order is 201 in English reverse. Ignatius of Loyola, who is the founder of the Jesuit order, is 201. Domus Sanctae Martha, where the Pope lives in Suite 201, sums to 201 in ordinal. Jorge Mario Bergoglio, the full name of Pope Francis here, sums to 201. That old serpent sums to 201, and we know that to be an alternative name for the devil in the Bible. Same as the crooked serpent sums to 201. Scorpion stinger sums to 201, and rat exterminator, which we saw in my last decode for kill the rats, sums to 201 as well. So let's take a look at this article. We see here that the article goes on to say, in Rome, the Vatican on Friday excommunicated Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, exacting a severe punishment on the most vociferous internal critic of Pope Francis for refusing to recognize the authority of the Pope and liberal reforms made by the Roman Catholic Church since the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s. Such drastic steps are exceedingly rare in the Church and illustrated the extent to which Vigano, the Vatican's former ambassador to the United States, is perceived to have crossed a line. He has called on the Pope to resign and excoriated him in harsh terms, including calling him a servant of Satan. We saw that earlier, summing to 175. Vigano's punishment suggests that Francis, who has faced conservative criticism since early in his papacy, may be losing patience with his sharpest critics in the church hierarchy who have challenged his papal authority in sometimes shocking and irreverent terms. It is also an indication of how Vigano has morphed over the years from being a critic of the Pope and the Church's shortcomings on dealing with clerical abuse into a fringe conservative firebrand who has embraced conspiracy theories and recently tweeted a post from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican of Georgia, claiming that the COVID vaccines are killing people. So we saw here servant of Satan, summed to 175 in English. However, in Chaldean, servant of Satan sums to 55. And we know 55 is a very big number tied to Satan, as the word Satan sums to 55 in English. And the symbols that we see for 55 tie to the double down, the W, the two intersecting V's here, which is also can stand for a virgin of virgins, the female goddess worship. It also represents two downward arrows for double down. It has the X in the middle, and it also represents the W, because we are a twin. We have our angel demon twin as our unconverted spirit. So that symbol here is definitely tied to Satan. It's also V is the fifth number, is the number 5 in the Roman numerals. So we can look at this W, this two intersecting V's, as 5 and 5, matching Satan as well. And the 5 and the 5 is tied directly to us being humans, We have 5 fingers on each hand for the 5 and the 5, and man sums to 10 in Chaldean, the 5 and the 5. And then we have 48 phalanges or 28 phalanges or finger bones here, and the number 28 in Chaldean also sums to Lucifer. So let's take a look in the Chaldean database and see what other numbers sum to 55 and match. And we find Lucifer's number, the hidden one, Satan on a throne, female goddess, secret destroyer, a virgin of virgins, cult of virginity, matrix means a womb, we are the 2x, the twin X system, the W, release the Kraken, electromagnetic, bottomless pit, and Southern Cross, the upside down cross, all sum to 55 in Chaldean. So let's keep going with our article here. So it says here that the Vatican's decision came after its disciplinary body, the Dicastery of the Doctrine of the Faith, had issued a formal decree June 20th assigning the senior cleric to a penal canon trial for the crime of schism and denial of the legitimacy of Pope Francis. His public statements manifesting his refusal to recognize and submit to the Supreme Pontiff, his rejection of communion with members of the Church subject to him, and of the legitimacy and magisterial authority of the Second Vatican Council are well known. The Dicastery of the Doctrine of the Faith said in a statement, at the conclusion of the penal process, the Most Reverend Carlo Maria Vigano was found guilty of the reserved delict of schism. So who is the Supreme Pontiff? And that answer came up here. The Supreme Pontiff, who also known as the Pope, is the Bishop of Rome and the visible head of the worldwide Catholic Church. He is the successor of Saint Peter, who was appointed by Jesus Christ as the leader of the Church. The Pope is considered the supreme teacher of the universal Church, and his teachings are considered infallible when he speaks ex cathedra, or in his official capacity as the supreme pastor and teacher of all Christians. So we see here, this is a picture of Mr. Pope Francis with former ex-president Obama, and we know that Obama sums to 103 in reverse English, matching double and dragon 103, the god and archon all summing to 103. Then we take the words the Supreme Pontiff, and we want to break that down here. The Supreme Pontiff in Chaldean sums to the number 88, and the number 88 is a very big number. We know it's tied to Back to the Future and time travel, and in Chaldean it's tied to the human host body system, which the Supreme Pontiff claims to have ownership of in our world. The whole concept of birth certificates is proof of that. And the words thought, emotion, action sum to 88. Handwriting of ordinances, which is a chirograph, which is the contract that Lucifer has on us for coming in and taking over or taking a human host body here in this world. Framed and double-crossed, we learned about that in my Groundhog Day decode, that we are framed and double-crossed coming in here. Flies in the Vaseline we are, that is it's right out of the song Vaseline by Stone Temple Pilots. Converse of love light, so the opposite of love light, sums to 88. Walking the left-hand path, so that it would be the evil path, sums to 88. And mene tekel aparsum, which is from Daniel 5:27, and that means thou art weighted in the balances and art found wanting, and that is tied directly to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where our heart is weighted on the scales, and if it's found heavier than the feather, we are not found worthy. So let's move on with the article. Vigano for years was considered a darling of conservative U.S. Catholics, wary of Francis and the more open church he represents. In 2015, Vigano, then the Vatican's ambassador to the United States, arranged for Francis to have a meeting with Kim Davis, a Kentucky clerk making headlines for refusing to give gay couples marriage licenses. The meeting, initiated by conservative evangelicals eager to highlight Davis's plight, angered some Catholics and forced the Pope aides to do a damage control. Vigano was recalled as U.S. ambassador or apostolic nuncio in 2016. 2 years later, he made headlines with a bombshell letter that latched on to the vulnerability of the Church, its record of dealing with sexual abuse cases, to accuse Francis of misconduct. Francis, he asserted, had ignored early warnings about Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, the former Archbishop of Washington, D.C., who had just resigned from the College of Cardinals amid allegations that he sexually abused adults and minors for decades. 3 weeks before the Vatican announced Vigano's trial, the Italian prelate published fresh allegations on X Twitter claiming that Francis had committed the same abuses as McCarrick when serving in a senior church position in Argentina. He offered no evidence. Vigano appeared to escalate his missives after a December ruling authorized by Francis, allowing Catholic priests to conduct short blessings of people in same-sex relationships. He referenced the ruling in his lengthy response to the trial, writing, "Bergoglio, who's the Pope, authorizes the blessing of same-sex couples and imposes on the faithful the acceptance of homosexualism while covering up the scandals of his protégés and promoting them to the highest positions of responsibility." Alejandro Bermudez, founder of the Catholic News Agency and a longtime conservative Catholic journalist, said that many conservative Catholics who are extremely critical of Francis's papacy appreciated some of Vigano's good points, but they drew the line when Vigano directly claimed the Pope wasn't legitimate and began issuing hyperbolic attacks. "The key thing is the timeline," Bermudez said. "It goes from a very credible Vigano to a train wreck." So the words "same abuses" we see here highlighted in the article. Same abuses sums to 105 in ordinal, matching the following words: torment, sudden death, mother god, Kelapoth, which we'll look at a little bit later in the Decode, and shut up, to close up. So let's break down who Mr. Carlo Maria Vigano is. And on the left here, we see that the wiki box with all of his tombstone sort of data here. And we'll see that he was born on the 15th of January, 1941, and he's currently 83 years old. And his birth date, and we can go to the Cards of Destiny system where we overlay a poker deck over the calendar year. And the reason we do that is the poker deck has 52 cards to match the 52 weeks of the year. It has the 13 cards in each of the 4 suits. There are 13 month cycles or moon cycles. And the 4 suits match the 4 seasons or the 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire, or spring, winter, summer, and fall. So here we see here on the 16th of January on the Cards of Destiny system here, that the 16th of January is a Jack of Diamonds date. The Jack of Diamonds converts to the Knight of Pentacles in the Tarot deck, and the Knight of Pentacles is the 75th card of the deck. And we know that this article was on July 5th, 7/5. And the Knight of Pentacles is associated with the following words: common sense, down to earth, tenacious, honest, persistent, conservative, conventional, and protective. All traits that we saw within the article, the previous article we just read about who Mr. Vigano is here. So when we take his name and put it into the English ordinal cipher, Carlo Maria Vigano, we get a sum total of 159. 159 matches the following words within the same cipher within the English ordinal cipher. We see it matches investigator, Martin Luther, who wrote the 95 Theses against the Catholic Church, willing sacrifice, New Testament, man of perdition, royal bloodline, 174, which was the atomic weight for lutetium, Keystone Bridge, a keyword in recent news regarding the bridge collapse, 75th, which we see here on July 5th, the 7/5, prison planet, and social distancing, which we saw here was one of the topics that Mr. Vigano criticized in the article. From his birthday to July 5th, so from January 16th to July 5th, it's precisely 5 months and 19 days, and that's 519, which is an anagram for the 159. And in the reverse cipher, we see that 159 matches Donald Trump, indictment, and insurrection, which are three words that are tied to a lot of recent stories here regarding Mr. Trump. So I just thought that that was interesting that this number 159 had come up again in a major international news story. So we're going to move on and switch gears, and we're going to look at the Acts of Peter. So the Acts of Peter is an apocryphal text that describes the missionary work, miracles, and martyrdom of the Apostle Peter, most notably his request to be crucified upside down, feeling unworthy to die in the same manner of Jesus. This is all according to ChatGPT. This dramatic and humble portrayal of Peter's martyrdom is one of the text's key stories. However, the Acts of Peter was excluded from the canonical Bible due to its questions about its authorship, as it was not written by Peter himself but attributed to him, making it pseudographical. Additionally, its theological content and miraculous elements were viewed as inconsistent with the developing orthodoxy and canon criteria of the early Christian church. These factors led early church leaders to reject the text from the official New Testament canon, and I would suspect that this early Christian church is tied directly to the Holy Roman Empire. Okay. So here is chapter 33 from the Acts of Peter, and we're going to read this because it explains a lot, and we'll see here, you can see right in this verse here why it was removed, because it explains so much. So this is what Peter goes on to say. And when they had hanged him up after the manner he desired, he began again to say, You men unto whom it belongeth to hear, hearken to that which I shall declare unto you at this especial time as I hang here. Learn you the mystery of all nature and the beginning of all things, what it was. For the first man, and that's going to be the first man from the original race in Genesis 1, the first man, whose race I bear in mine appearance, or of the race of whom I bear the likeness, fell, was born head downwards, and showed forth a manner of birth such as was not heretofore, for it was dead. We are the living dead, the walking dead, having no motion. He's talking about Lucifer here, then being pulled down, who also cast his first estate down upon the earth, established this whole disposition of all things, being hanged up an image of the creation. In Greek, that word is vocation, creation, vocation, wherein he made the things of the right hand into the left hand, and the left hand into the right hand, and changed about all the marks of their nature, so that he thought those things that were not fair to be fair, and those that were in truth evil to be good, concerning which the Lord saith in a mystery, Unless you make the things of the right hand as those of the left, and those of the left as those of the right, and those that are above as those below, and those that are behind as those that are before, you shall not have knowledge of the kingdom. And we see here this is St. Peter's Basilica. You can see that it's in the shape of a cross when you go look at it from a satellite image. And it's called St. Peter's Basilica. So this is the upside down cross, as Peter was crucified upside down, as we can see here in this ancient artwork. And being the upside down cross, that the cross that's upright, Christ's cross, is within a keyhole, a locked keyhole. And until you convert down to up, because we're upside down, to convert down to up and stand up on Christ's cross, where you take the things above as the things below, and the things on the left as the things on the right, that you'll have no knowledge of the kingdom. And that's the whole symbol here in St. Peter's Basilica. So we're going to take a look now at a YouTube video. So I would encourage everyone to please pause the video and watch the YouTube video above here, which is Tool Schism, the official video. Here's the link here. You can type that in, or I'm going to provide a link below in the description box that you can just click on and you can go watch this video. I can't embed it into my video without getting a copyright infringement. So please go watch that and then come back and we're going to break down this video and see what's in it. So having looked at the video for the video Schism by Tool, you can see that it starts off with the pendulum of time, and it starts with showing this character here. This is the female character. She's got the red hair, or the red roots growing out of her head. And to me that symbolizes that she's the natural man, the one formed by germination, the original race. And you can see she's bringing the male into the system that she's in. And as she pulls him into the system, she pulls him up feet first. And he comes into this system that she's in upside down. And you can see here that she's spinning him around and around. It almost looks like the Ouroboros here on the ground, or a target, or the monad that he's in, which is also represents the masculine. And he's completely upside down here. And in the tarot deck, this is the 12th card of the deck. This is the Hanged Man, and this is showing our condition upon birth that we learn in the Acts of Peter. And again, upon this rock I will build my church is describing exactly when Jesus renames Simon as Peter. And it says, this is Matthew 16:18. It says, I say also unto thee that thou art Peter. And that word there, Peter, means little rock. And upon this rock, this word rock here means foundation, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And this entire concept of one up, one down, male, female, is the fundamental teachings of Christ's church. And that sums to 112 in Chaldean, which matches the Virgin in English, and the number 112 in sacred geometry is tied to the Vesica Piscis, which forms a womb here, and the height and the width of the Vesica Piscis by ratio gives us the number 112. And the words that thou art Peter sum to 216 in English, matching trust-taking signs. We have to choose and polarize ourselves, either good or evil, either the left-handed path or the right-handed path. Gemini constellation, which is the twins. 159, we saw that number breaking down Carlo Maria Vigano. Mathematics of the circle, we see the circle here that she's spinning him in. The Church of Philadelphia, the Church of Brotherhood, and the Supreme Pontiff, who we know to be the Pope. And the number 216 is a product of 6 by 6 by 6. It's a crypto 666. In this next scene, we see that the male figure here has been awakened inside this box with an X on the wall. It almost looks like a clock on the wall here. And he's awakened, and he's completely upside down. And I thought that this box here represented the black cube of Saturn that we are in. And him being woken up is just like being born upside down on St. Peter's cross. So St. Peter is a 103 in the English ordinal. 103 is a number tied to Obama and the dragon in the reverse cipher, but in the forward cipher, it matches the following words: the Vatican, Satanist, Jesuits, fallen ones, twin flame, human body, circle of life, the secret, and choose a side. And here we see a verse that matches the image we see here from Isaiah 24 verse 1. It says, behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants. And there's plenty of other verses that reference being upside down. This is just one of them. But you can see here that as he's come in here, he's come in on St. Peter's cross. And then in a couple following scenes, we see the sort of the tree of life represented on the back wall, and the male figure is inside that sort of shaded area in the middle, while the female comes in front of him. She bends over and her head starts to swing like a pendulum, where the male then is awoken and he comes out to join her. And he then too replicates her actions and starts to bend over and swing his head. And the two of them synchronize in their pendulum swing here. And the words "the pendulum" are the famous number 55, and we've seen that before earlier in our decode with a servant of Satan. So the pendulum matches 55. 322 matches 55. Crossed femurs matches 55, and here servant of Satan, just as a reminder, was also 55. And 322 and crossed femurs is a direct tie to the Order of Skull and Bones, which is a fraternity out of Yale University with some pretty high-ranking graduates from this secret society here, including Father Bush and son George Bush. And this 322 number is on their logo, and these are crossed femurs here in the logo. And I've decoded this before. I haven't done a video about it, but the skull and bones, this skull and bones symbol is just a cryptic version of the staff of Mercury, and we see that here with the 22 bones in the human skull. 22 over 7, which is what 3 plus 2 plus 2 equals. So 22 over 7 is pi, represented by the pole here on the staff of Mercury. And the snake here represents the golden ratio, and there's two of them. So there's two golden ratios, and the golden ratio is represented by the number 1.61. We can ignore the zero in numerology as 161, and 161 times 2 is 322. So here this logo is just this representation of the staff of Mercury. And 322 is also a major reference to Genesis 3:22. And the Lord God said, "Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever." So we see here that that's the verse that where we tells us that man has become as one of us, one of the gods, one of the Elohim. And this pi-phi ratio here, put into Chaldean, pi and phi sum to 33 in Chaldean, and we know that 33 is the number of life, death, and ascension. It's a master number, and it's also the number tied to Jesus Christ, his crucifixion at 33 years old in the year 33. Okay. So this is a review from last week's Decode. Before we move on, it's the definition of the words male and female, the first time we see them in the Bible, in Genesis 1:27. And this word here is Elohim. It's Hebrew word 430 from Strong's Concordance. So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. And the word male is broken down into the Strong's Hebrew word 2145, zakar, meaning him, male, man-child, and it means to be properly remembered, as if the male is forgotten in the system. And female is created is the word Hebrew word 5347. That means female from the sexual form, and the root word is nakab, which means to pierce, to puncture, literally to perforate with more or less violence, with holes to pierce, to strike through. And so the duality of the system was created here in Genesis 1:27 between the male energy and the female energy. And the male energy comes into the system to be pierced and with violence within the system as female consumes male. And we see the symbolic representation of this within our pop culture. With the Scorpions album here with the female with the scorpion tail. We see that here on another Scorpions album with this naked female here on top of a hill full of scorpions. This is Lady Gaga on the cover of Candy, which is I believe it's a transgendered magazine. And you can see here that the 5-pointed star is replacing the A in the word candy. A represents the masculine, the male, as the number 1. And this 5-pointed star is a representation of the angels, the sheep in the system, and they're being surrounded. They are the candy. They are being consumed by the female to pierce, which is the scorpion on her left breast here. This here is a hairstyle that represents and resembles a scorpion tail and the scorpion stinger. And here we see a tattoo of a scorpion on a female as well. These scorpion tattoos are quite common on women, and then here is the bait in the system, the female on the hook, because she is the hooker, and that's where we get the word hooker from. And here we see another representation with the Vatican as they release their commemorative coin here with this male figure in the middle, and he's surrounded by the 2 females, almost just like the most interesting man in the world with the Dos Equis, the twin female, and they're piercing him here with this syringe, and his index finger is pointing at the number 0, because the female is to pierce and to destroy the male within the system, so that they want to get rid of the male energy out of the system. They want to get it back down to 0. So let's move on with our tool Schism and see what we see here matching these definitions. So after the male awakens and he's falls, you see him tumble down and stand up, and the female representative, she comes up and she puts her index finger up towards his ear, his temple here, and it looks like she's about to pierce him. And this matches a verse, Jeremiah 31:22. How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. And this is Jeremiah 31:22. And the word woman here is the exact same definition, nakab, from Genesis 1:27, to pierce, to strike through. And we saw the woman compassing the man in that Vatican coin. So Tool sums to 62, the name of the band. 62 is a big number for the queen. Queen is 62 in English. And in Chaldean, to pierce the male sums to 62. 62 is tied to the female goddess. And we know that from the Chaldean as we break down the words within the database. And we see the immortal queen matching 62 along with Lilith the Deceiver, the Scarlet Woman, twin female system, Pussies Kill the Rats, Deal with the Devil, On Inverted Cross, and Trapped in Flesh, all summing to 62 within the same cipher Chaldean here. So once she pierces his head with her index finger, she reaches in and tugs on his ear and pulls out his ear here. And that is right out of Deuteronomy 15:17. Then thou shalt take an awl and thrust it in his ear, and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto the maidservant thou shalt do likewise. And the word awl here is a boring instrument. It's Hebrew word 4836, martia, and this is an image of what an awl looks like. It looks like a piercing instrument, a boring instrument. So then thou shalt take an awl and pierce his ear, which is what she's done in the video here, and he will be her slave forever, which is exactly what we see. He becomes her slave and synchronizes with her. And his maidservants, and this word maidservant is a reference to his family and his wife. So, and any of the people that he's responsible for will also be fallen to the female slave here, or slave master. So we see here the word hooker, which we saw in this image, is a 28 in Chaldean, matching Lucifer at 28 in Chaldean. And we saw that earlier with our 14 phalanges on each hand for a total of 28. So after she pierces his ear, he has this parasite growing with him, this cannibalistic parasite. And here we see it protruding from his neck, and it looks like a little worm coming out of his neck. And this idea of man becoming a worm is right out of the Bible, and we see that in Job 25:4 verses 6. And it says, how then can man be justified with God? Or how can he be clean that is born of a woman? Behold, even to the moon, and it shineth not. Yea, the stars are not pure in his sight. How much less man that is a worm, and the Son of Man which is a worm. And the stars are not pure in his sight. We are the stars. We are the stars of El. We are the celestial luminaries, the soldiers in Christ. And this is, the stars are not pure in his sight, sums to 103 in Chaldean, and that matches penalty of excommunication at 103 as well, which is what we saw with Carlo Vigano. And we know the number 103 is tied to St. Peter being born on the upside down cross. And here we see a representation of man being a worm, and we know that we see this right from Star Wars. They show this to us in plain sight. If we're the stars, then Star Wars is a war about us, and here we see Jabba the Hutt, a worm, who is chained to the lustful female here, which is another biblical reference. And then towards the end of the video, we see that the male figure then emerges, he sort of merges with his mirror image, his shadow demon self, and then the two become one, and then go into the pit of fire. And you can see the fire igniting here within him. And this is right from the Jewish Kalipot system, which is Jewish Kabbalah mysticism. And this understanding is tied to the Kalipot. This is the 11-pointed star, also called an endecagram. This is the same 11-point star that the Statue of Liberty sits on. Please go watch my Liberty Decoded, and you'll see this here and there. The 11-pointed star, the outer 11-pointed star, represents a peel, shell, or husk. It's inherently evil. It represents our human host, our human flesh body system, the human host body. And within the human body is the 5-pointed star, the celestial luminary, the angel within, the light body within, and that's represented by the 5-pointed star, and it sits within a hexagon, and that hexagon is the two-dimensional representation of the cube. So the 5-pointed star is within the cube, and that cube is within the one-up, one-down system here, represented by the commonly known Star of David or Star of Remphan, or the 6-pointed star here. So that's us. This represents us, our angelic essence, trapped within the cube, in the dualistic system of good and evil, all within our human host body, and our opposing twins, our angel demon essence, throughout time, and it is dualistic, and throughout time, if it doesn't get rectified by the end of our time, the two will become one, down, and down towards the pit, and that is our condition unless we get converted and rectified. And we see this, we'll see this in pop culture. Here's one example from Pink Floyd. This is the album called The Division Bell, and here we see the two faces facing each other at the bottom of the endecagram, and where the two become one. And there's also a famous song by the Spice Girls, and that song is called Two Become One, and that sums to 46 in English, and we know 46 is tied to our DNA. And in Chaldean, we see the DNA references here in Chaldean. It's tied to the Most High, Building a Mystery, a song from Sarah McLachlan about destroying the male energy. The serpent, trap of lust, the matrix trap, double helix, which is our DNA, human vessel, to be pierced, and man is but a worm, all summed to 46 in Chaldean. And here we see the joining together reference in the Bible, and we find that in Ezekiel 28:14, when they're referencing the king of Tyrus, which is Lucifer in the flesh, and they're talking about before Lucifer's fall, they call him the anointed cherub that covereth. So it says, Ezekiel 28:14, thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and there's a reference to Lucifer here, and that means to join together, to shut up, to remove the ability to turn up, and to be hedged in, to be fenced in, to be entwined as a screen. And I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God, and thou hast walked up and down the midst of the stones of fire. And we are the stones of fire. We are the stones, hence the term, the rolling stones. They turn us upside down, is the reference. And this is at the end of the video, the two become one, and then you can see the fire, the pit of fire that he goes into. And These are the lyrics from the song, and one of you can see here all the ones that I've highlighted are sort of the stuff that I've broken down. And the words that really stood out to me was the poetry that comes from squaring off between, and the circling is worth it, finding beauty in the dissonance, the finding beauty within the duality, and the squaring circle here. There's a cryptic reference to the squared circle, and I've decoded this. This is artwork that was made from ChatGPT. You can see the man, he's within the squared circle. We are in the squared circle, the cube of Saturn. And the word squared circle sums to 39. 39, I've shown in many of my decodes that 39 is in Hebrew gematria, the word Hellel, which is the word for Lucifer in Hebrew, sums to 39 in Hebrew gematria. So 39 is tied to Lucifer, and in Chaldean we can break it down through the database, and we find the words stuck in a box, the man trap, the black box, time loop, wormhole, the sound, the airwaves, God's voice, Father Time, artificial mind, mind parasite, the wretch, and I Got You Babe, which is the song sung in Groundhog Day. Please check out that decode as well if you haven't seen it. And I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you everyone for your support. And as usual, much love to all. Thank you very much.